Welcome to this overview on installing CUWB software and configuring a CUWB real-time location system. For our overview, we will be using 6 anchors and 1 tag already installed and surveyed in one of our test labs. This diagram shows the surveyed location of each anchor in a Cartesian coordinate system, with the origin point 2.728 meters below the anchor with the serial that ends in C9. The other anchors are shown with their surveyed location in parentheses as highlighted here. This video will not cover how to install and survey anchors, but our website has resources to assist you with this process. To get started, download the CUWB software from our website at CUWB.io. Then, select Software from the menu at the top. Next, click on the Software Download button, and you will be directed to this page. In most cases, you will want to follow the 3 steps covered in the Download and Install using PPA section, as this will install all of the CUWB software in your computer running Ubuntu 22.04 or 24.04. For this overview, I will download the individual Debian packages and install them manually to demonstrate the different components of the CUWB software stack. I have downloaded the Debian packages into a local directory on my PC, as shown here. First, we will install the primary component of CUWB, CUWB Manager. This package has one prerequisite before it can be installed: CUWB Migrate. The purpose of CUWB Migrate is to transform CUWB configuration files between different versions of CUWB software. To install, type sudo apt install /CUWB migrate. Then press the tab key to complete the file name, and then hit enter. Next, install CUWB Manager by typing sudo apt install /CUWB-manager. Then press the tab key to complete the file name, then hit enter. Select Y when prompted to continue. A dialog will be presented to increase the size of the Ethernet receive buffer. To ensure a performant system, it is recommended that you accept the change. More information about the reason for the change can be found in the application note referenced in the dialog. The CUWB Manager has a web UI for configuration and monitoring. You will be prompted for permission to bind the web UI to port 5000. By default, the CUWB Manager communicates with anchors and user apps using multicast. For multicast to function properly, an IGMP courier must exist on your network. Typically, this is built into networking equipment. If your network does not have an IGMP courier, this installation can install a software-based one called PIMD. For this demo, I will select Yes to install PIMD. Next, the license agreement will be presented. Please read this. When you reach the end of the agreement, press the tab key to select the OK button. Then, you will be prompted to accept the license agreement. If you select Yes, the installation will continue. After the installation finishes, open a web browser and navigate to localhost:5000. The first time you access the CUWB Manager web UI, you will be given a pop-up notification that will provide a link to a quick start guide and a link to our online documentation. I will go ahead and click the link to the online documentation so that I have that available for future reference. The first thing we need to do is create a CUWBNet. A CUWBNet is a configuration that specifies the operating parameters for a CUWB system. I will call the name of my CUWBNet Test Lab East. Then, I will need to specify if the CUWBNet should be multi-time or multi-range. For this overview, I will select multi-time because it schedules exact times when a tag should report its location. To understand more about the differences between multi-time and multi-range, you can go to CUWB.io, select Articles, and reference the article titled Choosing Between Multi-Time and Multi-Range. A more in-depth application note is also available on our website in the documentation section. The last step in creating the CUWBNet is to click the Add button. Now, I can click on the CUWBNet's name to start entering information about it. In the Devices tab, I will begin entering information about the anchors that will be participating in the CUWBNet. Specifically, the surveyed location and serial number need to be specified. There is also an option to give a device a name. This name can be useful for the user to come up with a custom naming convention that will enable them to easily identify different devices. For the first one, I will name the anchor at location 0, 0, 2.728A. Then, enter its serial number and select its role. For multi-time, we must specify if an anchor is an initial seeder, seeder, or quiet anchor. For the first one, I will select initial seeder. This specifies that this anchor will initially determine the time in the CUWBNet. Next, I will enter its coordinates, 0 for X and Y, and 2.728 for Z. Finally, I will click the plus button to add the anchor to the CUWBNet. I will then enter the serial numbers and coordinates for the other 5 anchors, and select the role of seeder for them. Finally, I will enter the serial number and name for the tag, and I will select the role of default tag. Since the tag is a roving device, it does not have an XYZ coordinate. Now that all the devices associated with our CUWBNet have been entered, I need to specify some more settings in the General tab. First, I will need to specify a bounding box. A bounding box helps the location engine determine locations faster by specifying the outer limits of a tracking area. A simple way to compute the bounding box is to give it an offset from the outer anchors. I will use the default padding offset of 1 meter and click on the Use Anchor Bounds button to compute the bounding box. Then click the Save button to save the computed result. The last configuration that needs to be specified for my CUWBNet is its Ethernet settings. The CUWB Manager communicates with anchors over an interface that is configured with link local. This warning icon is notifying me that the CUWB Manager can't find an interface configured with link local. For this CUWBNet, the anchor network is plugged into a USB Ethernet adapter on my PC. I will need to configure this interface so that its IP is configured with link local. To do that, go to Settings, Wired, click on Wired Settings, select the gear icon for the appropriate Ethernet adapter, click on the IPv4 tab, select the Link Local Radio button, then click Apply. Now, go back to the CUWB Manager and select the Refresh Network Interfaces button, and the warning will go away. I will use the default settings for the User section to route user data through the default gateway. If you are unsure about which Ethernet settings should be used, there is a network wizard that can help guide you through the setup process. Now, when I click the Run button, the CUWBNet will start up. When I click on the Status tab and select the Devices tab, we can see that connectivity to the 6 anchors has been found and is in the process of synchronizing time through the CUWBNet. You may notice that a connectivity to the tag has not been established. This is because it has been stationary for a while and only searches for a CUWBNet every 10 minutes when stationary. But it has the Wake on Shake feature enabled. So when I move the tag and switch to the 2D location viewer, the locations of our anchors and tags will be displayed. In the 2D location viewer, anchors are shown as green squares and the tag is a blue circle. I will enable the Show Serial Numbers option so that each device can be identified. When I move the tag, you will see that its position changes in the location viewer. To summarize this overview, I have shown how to install the CUWB Manager software, configure a CUWBNet, and start a CUWBNet to track the location of a tag. Stay tuned for follow-on videos where I will show how to install and utilize other components of the CUWB software suite.